Hello, my name is Klaus. I'm from Dresden für alle and I'd like to give you some information on the vaccination against the COVID-19 virus. In the past few months, we have all experienced what a pandemic means for society and also for us personally. It is very important to be able to get back to normal. This can only be achieved by reducing the number of infections. One important way to get there is to vaccinate and thus immunize as many people as possible in order to reduce the spread of new infections. In order to achieve a so-called herd immunity, which means to make so many people immune that the spread of the virus is prevented, at least 60 to 70% of the population would have to be vaccinated. In this way, society would also protect those who, for example, cannot be vaccinated because of previous illnesses or their age. With a vaccination, both severe causes and the transmission of the virus by vaccinated persons are practically almost impossible. There are side effects, but they are normal with all drugs and applications and cannot be ruled out. There is no such thing as a 100% protection, as the vaccines only work safely in approximately 85 to 95% of all cases. This uncertainty also applies to all drugs and treatment methods. There are mild side effects such as redness, fever and chills, but also severe side effects like blood clots or allergic reactions. This risk goes hand in hand with every drug you take. With every ibuprofen tablet, for example, or if you are a smoker, the same risk of blood clots is much more likely as a side effect. It is important to weigh the risks and benefits. With every infection, the probability of getting a severe corona cause up to death is much higher than suffering from the side effects of the vaccination. There can never be a 100% security. With the mRNA vaccines against corona, it works like this. The vaccine is based on the messenger RNA, mRNA, of the corona spike proteins. This is a messenger that can convey the blueprint for the spike proteins. When the vaccine is injected into the body, the mRNA enters human cells. There, with the help of the blueprints, mRNA, the spike proteins are produced that the body has not yet known. The blueprint can be used to produce spike proteins, but not the entire virus. The spike proteins of the coronavirus are generally not dangerous for the human body. The human immune system recognizes the virus spike proteins as foreign bodies and reacts to them with an immune response. A large number of different cells are involved in this. So through this vaccination, the body develops immunity to the virus itself. The second type of vaccine is the vector vaccine. We have known this for a long time. It is used, for example, for dengue fever or Ebola. Against corona, the protection of the vector vaccine works like this. With this vaccine, the goal is the same, to give the body the ability to produce spike proteins itself. This type of vaccine uses a virus as a vehicle. It's called a vector. This vector is harmless to humans. It can penetrate human cells particularly easily, which is helpful in this case. In order to transport the blueprint of the spike proteins into the human body, this time the DNA of the spike proteins is used and inserted into the DNA of the transport virus. The DNA, so to speak, is the original of the blueprint, whereas the mRNA is a copy of the blueprint. Unlike the mRNA, the DNA cannot be read out directly and converted into spike proteins. The DNA must first take the detour to the cell nucleus, where it is translated into mRNA. Then the same thing happens again as with the mRNA vaccine. The cells present the spike proteins to the immune system of the body, and the body can then form an immune response. Vaccines against COVID-19 are genetically modified, some claim. But experts disagree. mRNA vaccines are based on genetic engineering, but that does not mean they are genetic engineering. Genetic engineering plays a role in vaccine development, but in a completely different way. In the case of live and dead vaccines, weakened pathogens, for example viruses or pathogen antigens, are supplied to the body. With the gene-based vaccines used against COVID, on the other hand, the body cells produce the antigen themselves after the corresponding gene has been supplied via a vaccine. Both vector-based, such as AstraZeneca, and mRNA vaccines, such as BioNTech, Pfizer, or CureVac, follow this principle. They are based on genetic engineering because they contain genetic information about the pathogen. It is important to know that the genetic information of humans consists of DNA, but the genetic information of the virus and also the vaccine is an RNA. That is not compatible. Integration of RNA into DNA is not possible due to the different chemical structure, among other things. There are rumors that people with a vaccination will be injected with a microchip for surveillance. This is a conspiracy theory that is not only technically impossible, but complete nonsense. There are also rumors that the vaccination would lead to infertility in women or men. This is medically not possible. The vaccination cannot have any influence on that. The Quran and the statements of the Holy Prophet are very progressive towards the idea of modern medical research and the service of God's creation. If an invention is fundamentally useful for body and mind, and if it serves the general good of mankind, from an Islamic perspective it is considered to be welcome and even as a great benefit. Leading muftis in Malaysia have intervened in the debate about the permissibility of vaccines under Islamic law. According to the Islamic legal scholars, Islam provides for the obligation to vaccinate diseases that can lead to the death of the infected person and the contagion of third parties. Muslims' fear that the vaccines are not halal is based on the fact that until recently the flu vaccine in the UK contained pig gelatin. This was used as a stabilizer to maintain the vaccine's effectiveness from production to application. Gelatin was actually used in many vaccines in the past. This is no longer the case with modern vaccines. The German company BioNTech stated that their vaccine was both halal according to Muslim rules and kosher according to the guidelines of Judaism. This also applies to all other vaccines. Nobody is forced to vaccine, this is voluntary. But please do it, because this will help us all to have a life like before the corona pandemic. Please make an appointment online at the vaccination center or go to your family doctor.